A major sell-off in U.S. stocks is happening right now for the second straight day. The Dow is down nearly 300 points as concern mounts about the growth of the global economy. Mike Santoli from Yahoo Finance joins me now by phone. Mike, thanks for being with us. We know yesterday the Dow suffered its worst day of the year. What was behind this steep decline?
You know, it's really more of the same story. There are all these pressures coming from different parts of the world. You mentioned China being kind of at the center of the concerns. The slowdown in China is basically been a little bit worse than people expected, and the ability of the Chinese authorities to kind of get growth back on track and manage those financial markets are a big issue. We've also seen commodities kind of crashing worldwide. The low price of oil is a reflection of these global growth fears. Now, U.S. stocks have really been largely immune to that. For months, they've just been kind of going sideways, not too far from their all-time highs, and it seems as if all that pressure did kind of finally come to bear on the Dow. And it's hard to say exactly what this sell-off is really telling us about expectations for U.S. growth, because honestly, domestically, things look okay, and in fact, okay enough that the Federal Reserve has been looking for a chance to raise interest rates before too long.
Let me ask you this. As we continue to look at the board there, the Dow is now below 17,000. How significant is that?
That level itself isn't that significant, but, if it goes down a few hundred more points, it'll represent a 10% drop from an all-time high. You basically have gone nowhere for a year in the major U.S. market indexes, and so that kind of tells you that this bull market that was, kind of going up for about 6 years straight has stalled out. And, normally in over the span of history, markets have gone down as much as 10% on a pullback, every 1 or 2 years. We haven't had one of these for 4 years. So obviously, on some level, we were sort of due for some kind of a reset lower. So I don't think the level really matters. It's about, whether once we get to some kind of a low point here, if the U.S. economic growth picture remains relatively intact, it should really limit further downside.
So do you think what's happening here, maybe fear being part of an overreaction? I mean, how serious is this?
It's hard to say it's an overreaction when really there's been this kind of pent-up potential for selling. And so I think it's much more of a financial market event than it is an economic event at the moment, especially when it comes to the U.S. Yes, at some point it looks like a little bit of panic is getting into the trading activity in the last couple of days. That's often encouraging. It often means the market should rebound at least partially. But I wouldn't really call it an overreaction, because corporate profits have stalled out, and I think the market is just trying to figure out exactly what the trajectory of growth is. And I mentioned that the expectations for the Federal Reserve, that's a complicating factor here, because if the market has the idea that the Fed just wants to lift interest rates for the sake of doing it because it feels it's been too long since rates have been at zero, then that's not really very comfortable for investors, because it seems like they're not responding directly to what's happening in the markets and the economy. So it all remains to be seen what the Fed's going to do, but that's another issue as we get into September that's probably going to stay with us.
Looking at this from a different perspective, is this a good time to buy?
Well, it could be. I mean, obviously, it's sort of interesting. Stocks are the one thing that when they go on sale, people don't want to buy as much of them. But that's one way to look at it, is that things are getting cheaper. There's, 1/4 of all big stocks in the market right now in the U.S. are down more than 20% from their high. So if you have a longer-term horizon, obviously of multiple years, then yes, it's a better time today to buy than it was 6 months ago when stocks were higher.
All right. Mike Santoli, thank you very much for your insight.
Okay, thank you.